So some people are speculating that Antonio Pierce could get suspended for the viral comments he made about Patrick Mahomes. Check this out here.
It's cool. Like I told them, like we're running back. We'll see them again. They got to see us. We got to see them.
Yeah.
And we already given the recipe of how to do it. These guys know what it's like to go do it on a day where, and we talked about it. We were the first show on that day. And I told these guys, I said, listen, this is our time. It's our time. It's enough for nothing. Max know exactly how we built up that week, what I was doing to build up that week to hate the color red. Like we saw red, we hate red.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Like it was on that kind of level, right? Yeah. And I told them there's a difference between dislike and hatred. Mm-hmm. There's a hatred for the Chiefs. Like you got to truly dislike and hate this individual team. You got the Jordan rules, and I'm calling now from now on, as long as I'm here, the Patrick Mahomes rules. Mm-hmm. So you remember when Jordan was going through it with the Pistons, all those guys in the 80s before he came Michael Jordan, Air Jordan, the Pistons used to whoop his. Anytime he came to the hole, elbows, filling them, love taps. We touched them. We in the head, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'm touching you. Mm-hmm. So I showed those guys Jordan getting his whooped consistently. And on the side, I got the screen. I got these two side. And it's kind of like this is almost a little gory. Like this, we getting crazy now, right? This fucking brawling. And we got these two screens showing of us just getting after it. Raiders versus Chiefs. And then the last one, I showed Muhammad Ali in the 15th round. 12th round of his fights. Just giving it to him, finish. I said, man, when we get to the end, we got to finish him. We got to put him away. Yeah. We got to put him away the way we want to put him away. And if you go back to that game, they did a job. We talked about that second quarter, of dominating the second quarter. Yeah. Defensively, 2 touchdowns in 7 seconds. They were so hyped, I called a timeout just to calm us down. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, everybody calm down like this. I got Jack Jones over there, they fighting. I'm like, Max, I'm like, hold on, everybody stop. We call timeout just to slow the pace down because I'm like, we're ready. And then you see Patrick Mahomes looking around.
So obviously, I don't personally think Antonio Pierce is going to get suspended. I don't think those comments are bad enough to say that we're going to basically suspend this guy, maybe strip draft picks away from the Las Vegas Raiders. But some people do think that Antonio Pierce ultimately said on the Maxx Crosby podcast could ultimately end up getting him suspended. If not, at least the NFL will reach out to him and tell him those type of things aren't allowed. So as you guys know, back in 2012, the New Orleans Saints took a massive hit when their head coach, Sean Payton, got suspended. Their defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, was kicked out of the NFL. And although that was a lot worse, some people are saying that it's kind of similar. I don't think it necessarily is. The Saints were paying players to knock other players out, injure players, and those type of things, referred to as bounty gate. I think that's a lot worse than what Patrick Graham basically had his defense doing, right? When Antonio Pierce strategized and wanted the Raiders to do going into that week. Antonio Pierce talks about how, the Detroit Pistons basically did this to Michael Jordan, where they were elbowing him every time he would go into the paint. They're hitting him and being physical with him. And ultimately that ended up working because mentally it messed with Michael Jordan back then. And the Raiders basically took that same strategy and it actually worked for them. The last loss that the Kansas City Chiefs had was against the Raiders. In their final 10 games, I believe they only lost one, which was that Raiders game. And the strategy that Antonio Pierce basically had was to be physical with Patrick Mahomes. Antonio Pierce is, we got to knock off the head of the snake, number 15. Talking about Patrick Mahomes. Antonio Pierce is saying some very, very interesting words as he's kind of talking about Patrick Mahomes. And they actually did do this. I went back and I watched the tape of that game. You can definitely see moments on tape where guys are taking shots at Patrick Mahomes. They're hitting him where they may not ultimately have hit him if it were any other game because you'd be scared of that 15-yard penalty. The Raiders didn't necessarily do that. They went right at Patrick Mahomes. They're hitting him. They're nudging him. They're elbowing him. They're giving him, they're just playing a different, physical brand of football. And people are saying that you can't necessarily say those things out loud. Like, of course, everybody talks about it, right? Let's just be honest. Every NFL team out there, the defense coaches, the head coaches, these guys are telling their players that, hey, we got a quarterback over here who has, those shaky feet. You bring a little bit of pressure and they get scared. So make sure you hit them a couple times for them to actually realize that this is the type of game you're in. There was a viral clip that went viral a couple years back where it was a Vikings defensive player actually said the same thing about Raiders quarterback at that time, Derek Carr. He said that we went out there on the first drive, we took 2 15-yard penalties. We hit Derek Carr hard. One of them, I don't think they actually counted against the penalty, but they hit Derek Carr in the neck. That one got called. They hit him once again in the head another time. That one didn't get called. But their goal was to tell Derek Carr, we're going to play physical today. We're going to come after you. And coaches definitely do that, right? That's not anything new. But this one's different because Antonio Pierce is going out on the Crosby podcast and he's actually sharing with the world what our mindset was, right? You're not supposed to technically say it out loud. Back in, I believe, 2004, there was a defensive tackle who said something about Ben Roethlisberger at that time. Basically said something very similar, where we're going to basically take his head off, or something to that tune. And in that same season, he ended up getting a call from the NFL, and they warned him about saying those things publicly. So I would expect that Antonio Pierce, at the very, very worst, would get a call from the league, but I wouldn't expect a suspension from this. But again, some people are speculating that there's a chance. Some people on social media are putting it out there that this guy has to get suspended. This is not okay to go at, the best quarterback in the NFL. It's not okay for him to basically say we're going to take those shots at Patrick Mahomes. But let's be honest, right? The way to beat Patrick Mahomes is to be physical with Patrick Mahomes. It's to honestly just get right into his face and smack him and play that style of football. And that's the only way you can really beat Patrick Mahomes. Right? You got to contain him within the pocket. Don't let him create magic outside the pocket and hit him. Be physical, right? And basically make him throw the football from within the pocket. And that's going to give you as a defense the best chances to win. And I think everybody knows that recipe and strategy. Every team basically does it against Patrick Mahomes. Limit the big plays. And for Antonio Pierce to go out there, some people are saying that he may ultimately get suspended. I don't think it's going to actually happen, but it is interesting nonetheless that people are kind of talking about it. For me, I love that mindset and that attitude and that, just the thought process that we're going to go out there and we're going to hit people. And we're going to play physical, because it wasn't just Patrick Mahomes that the Raiders got after. Like, let's just be honest. The Raiders on the defensive side, after they played the Bears, they took a step up, right? Like, the defense got so much better. And I think a big part of that was because of just that mindset they kind of came in with. They said, we're going to go out there and we're going to win, right? We're going to win and we're going to be physical. And the defensive lines, really got it going. Even on the offensive side, the Raiders started running more zone runs. They started running the power that they felt would ultimately allow them to have success. And they play physical, right? And that ultimately allowed the Raiders to go 5-4 with Antonio Pierce as their head coach. So we'll see if the league actually comes down on AP. I don't think they will, but we'll see what ends up happening. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time with another video.